Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. I was just brushing up on my Spanish. Es muy importante to have a basic understanding of Spanish. Relations between Americans and Mexicans have been prominent ever since Mexican independence was declared in 1821. In fact, 10% of American population is of Mexican descent. The real question here is, how have these ties affected the course of U.S. history? Have our good looks really made that much of an impact? No. Simply put, when you put together two countries with very different cultures and blend them together, things are bound to go down between them. Today we will closely examine key people, places, and programs that have had profound effects on these relations. Vámonos! The first event we will study is one that is the whole reason behind the fact that we are even able to interact with Mexicans.
¡Viva la independencia!
Viva la Independencia! Sorry, I got a little carried away again. Anyways, September 16th, 1810 is a day that will forever live on in Mexico as the day that war was declared on their Spanish rulers. Napoleon had just recently invaded Spain, so the upset Creoles of the area decided that it was time to do something, so they began to conspire. They decided that it was time to join forces and rise up. However, they were discovered by the Spanish government during their conspiracies, so, in an act of desperation, Miguel Hidalgo y Castilla decided to make an announcement to take up arms against their oppressors in the town of Dolores. They led their army to Mexico City, wrecking small Spanish armies and recruiting as they went. However, they fell at the Battle of Calderon Bridge in 1811. Captains and other soldiers continued to fight for more than 6 years after El Terrible fall of the Father, and finally won their independence in September of 1821. And so now, we talk about the first time Mexico lost a large chunk of territory. Moses Austin's dream of creating a colony in Texas was achieved by his son Stephen in 1821. The same year, Mexico won its independence from the Spanish crown. There were two stipulations for colonists in the area. One, they had to follow the established Roman Catholic faith, and two, they were to be properly Mexicanized.
Hi, Poppy!
Many indigenous Tejanos lived in the region, but within 10 years, white immigrants outnumber them 10 to 1. These whites helped create a distinct Texican culture, bringing ranching and a distinct hatred for authority. Slaves were brought into the area directly against orders from the young Mexican government. In 1835, General Santa Anna began raising an army to suppress the Texans. In February of 1836, Mexican troops rolled into Texas, besieging and slaughtering over 400 Texans at the Alamo and Goliad.
Remember the Alamo!
They pursued the Texans under the direction of Sam Houston in a strategic retreat. Suddenly, on April 21st, Houston's army turned and faced Santa Anna's, obliterating them at the Battle of San Jacinto. Treaties were signed, and Texas was now an independent republic spanning from Louisiana to the Rio Grande. And now, unfortunately, we must talk about the second time Mexico lost territory, except this time it was to the United States. The president at the time was James K. Polk. Anyways, this president of the United States was a handsome and popular fellow. In fact, many women could compare his looks to mine. He believed in something called Manifest Destiny. This idea centered around the belief that the U.S. should be expanded across the continent and should spread its ideas elsewhere. This ideology led the scumbag of a man to annex Texas, which had just recently gotten its independence from Mexico. He had his eyes on California, and much of the Southwest as well, so he decided to sort of poke his foot around the Rio Grande. Anyways, Polk did this after Mexico rejected his offer of monies to buy territory. Mexico lashed back and spilled American blood on American soil. Polk declared war on Mexico and marched on in. They faced resistance from the weak Mexican army and even had to battle off old Santa Anna again. However, an attack by General Winfield, Fuss and Feathers Scott, overtook Mexico City and forced Mexico to agree to the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Mexico was forced to change the border to Rio Grande, recognize Texas as a U.S. possession, and sell California and other territory for $15 million. Along with losing half their country, Mexicans had to pay for certain war damages and costs. So to say it nicely, the Mexicans got the short stick.
And I got the big stick.
Shut up, Teddy! You have nothing to do with Mexico! On March 9th, 1916, a band of 700 Mexican revolutionaries under the command of Pancho Villa crossed the Rio Grande and sacked the small border town of Columbus, New Mexico.
¡México! ¡Ya llegué a la tierra! ¡Vámonos!
Villa had been a key figure in the Mexican Revolution that was still smoldering away throughout the country. This invasion was the first attack on U.S. soil by another country since Great Britain invaded during the War of 1812. This largely unprovoked attack was answered by a large retaliation under the command of General John J. Blackjack Pershing, ordered by President Wilson. Over the course of 11 months, 10,000 U.S. troops scoured the Mexican landscape searching for Villa. Unsuccessful in his mission, Pershing was ordered to leave Mexico in 1917 when the U.S. was forced to spend its military might on a new European war. So I guess we have the Germans to thank for keeping us out of war with Mexico. The Bracero program was created by an executive order in 1942 because many farmers argued that World War II would bring labor shortages to low-paying agricultural jobs. Between 1942 and 1964, 4.8 million people came to the United States from Mexico under the Mexican Farm Labor Supply Program, more commonly known as the Bracero program.
Oh, good work, boys. Jose, Ignacio, Juan, keep it up. You're really helping the U.S. economy.
Sadly, the experiences of those 4.8 million farm workers are not part of the narrative of the American history that is told inside most American classrooms. Despite their enormous contribution to the American economy, the Braceros suffered harassment and oppression from extremist groups and racist authorities. In 1943, a series of riots broke out in Los Angeles, California during World War II between Anglo-American sailors, Marines, and Latino youths. These riots came to be known as the Zoot Suit Riots because Latinos were recognizably known for wearing zoot suits.
Hey, man. Nice zoot suit.
Hey, thanks, man. All my friends wear them.
Tensions started boiling between white military personnel and Mexican Americans due to the effects of the infamous Sleepy Lagoon murder trial in which 17 Mexican American youths were held and sentenced to prison time for murder without sufficient evidence. As tensions arose, fighting began to sporadically occur. On June 3, 1943, a group of 11 sailors were allegedly attacked by a gang of Mexican Americans. You see, the blood hunt for them began that night. A convoy of sailors took taxis into East Los Angeles and began to beat groups of 12 and 13-year-olds that were wearing their zoot suits. They stripped the kids of their zoot suits and burned them right in front of them.
Hey, what are you doing?
Straight out of Compton, it's a crazy brother named Ice Cube. From the stupid dope gang with an attitude. When I'm caught off, I got a sword off. Kick knowledge and bodies all hauled off.
However, the violence escalated when thousands of servicemen went around Los Angeles and beat and arrested hundreds of Mexican Americans. The press applauded these attacks as a way to clean up Los Angeles, and politicians blamed it on zoot suiters as if it was their fault that they were beat. Unfortunately, this incident triggered similar attacks in large cities all across the United States. Cesar Chavez was an American farm worker, labor leader, and civil rights activist who co-founded the National Farm Workers Association in the year 1962. Chavez was a unique and humble leader as well as a great humanitarian and communicator who inspired millions of Americans. Cesar forged an extraordinarily diverse coalition for farm worker boycotts, which included students, middle-class consumers, and minorities. From 1965 to 1970, Chavez organized the Delano grape strike and boycott. People all around the country were told to stop buying grapes to help win the minority working groups the right to unionize.
Hey, man, don't buy those grapes.
Okay.
Through nonviolence, Chavez and the country won this boycott, earning these workers their rights as laborers. Caesar's motto, Si se puede, which means yes it can be done, embodies the legacy he left for people all around the world. As a common man with an uncommon vision, Cesar Chavez stood for equality, justice, and dignity for all Americans. And finally, our last item today is our analysis of the controversial NAFTA created by President Bill Clinton. NAFTA stands for the North American Free Trade Agreement, and its main purpose is to eliminate trading barriers such as tariffs and other taxes between Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. This is the largest free trade zone currently in existence. NAFTA has given these three countries much more free leeway with trade and has made the acquisition of many products much easier. For example, Mexico is now the second largest importer of American agricultural products.
Hey man, I tried you these Mexican chips for your American fun.
Okay, but it's gonna cost you.
Hey! No tariffs!
And that brings us here to today. Well, I hope this video has taught you much more about the relations between two groups of people, the Mexicans and the Americans. On a serious note, their interactions help shape both of their histories and will continue to mold them as time goes on. Although very different in culture and ideas, they are close in proximity, and this will cause conflicts between the countries. We hope you enjoyed our presentation, and always remember, ¡Vive la Independencia!